Have you ever wondered what it's like to completely immerse yourself in a new culture, thousands of miles from home? Welcome to From Africa with Purpose, the podcast dedicated to uncovering the inspiring journeys and unique experiences of Africans who live or study in Japan. Today, we are incredibly honored to be joined by Rangarirai from Zimbabwe, a remarkable individual whose academic accomplishments, dedication to his research in agricultural economics, and commitment to cross-cultural understanding truly sets him apart. From Africa with Purpose. So the first question is, what's your first time in Japan? When you landed in Kansai, what did you notice? What was the difference?
When you're coming from Zimbabwe or a developing country like Zimbabwe, you would definitely see a big difference between these so-called developing and developed countries, right? But what is interesting is as you transition, right, from Zimbabwe, you go to Addis Ababa, and then you go to Dubai, and then Seoul.
Korea.
In Korea. It's like a different, kind of, levels, right? With Japan being at this, top level. And this is only in terms of service, right? If you come to Zimbabwe or Zimbabwean airport, you have these people that are serving you. So you might find someone is on their phone, right? And they are talking to a co-worker who's on the next booth. And what happened yesterday? And they speak, and you're standing there, and you want to be served.
Yes.
Right? And then, of course, it's the same all the way to Korea. Right? And, someone is on the phone. Oh, this way. All those going to Kansai, this way. But they're still on their phone. Yes. But you land in Japan, it's different. You have 3 people attending to you at the same time. This way. And they are focused on you, right? And right here, and then you walk, and I think that was the first difference that I noticed, right at the airport, that, okay, they do things differently here. And of course, the cleanliness, everything is clean. You understand? Everything is clean. And, of course, I have a story later about this cleanliness, but let me just tell it as a story as I enter Japan. The floors, the seats, everything looks beautiful. And beautiful. At that moment, you start to think how do they do it?
Yes.
Because I think in my country or in South Korea or in Addis Ababa, we want also to be clean. But we're trying, but somehow we're failing to get to that level. So right there, at that moment, I start to think, how do the Japanese do this, right? How do they make it look so nice like this, right? So I had all of these things. And, I arrive in my dome. I was staying in a dome, in Doshisha Dome, and everything had been prepared, right? So there's order. You have to do this by this time. Make sure you get to, if you want to get on this bus, make sure you are on at this time. Everything it runs smoothly. There's order to everything, right? And I'm just amazed. Wow, this is heaven. For me, this is heaven.
I know,
right?
I feel.
But at the same time, as time goes on, I start also being kind of frustrated. There's order, there's cleanliness, everything works. But, I'm coming from a situation where some things, there's some flexibility.
Yes.
If you are late by 15 minutes, they can say, it's okay, come in. But I get to Japan, if I'm late by 15 minutes, this means my time is used up. Right, so if it's a doctor's appointment, if it's a bus, I've missed it. I've missed my opportunity, and I'm trying to beg with them. Can I just get? No, I'm sorry. You have to reschedule. Right. So, I think right at that time I start to feel these different, emotions everything works here because there's order. Everyone is punctual. If I miss that, if I use African time, African standard time, it's not going to work here.
Yes.
Right?
Different
it's not
time.
going to work. And yeah, those are some of the differences that I started to notice right then. And then to finish off the story about cleanliness, I remember some years back, some years after I arrived here, I met some friends. And I told them, oh, by the way, I'm going to do some research in the rural areas of Japan, right? Okay. And then they told me like, they are dirty. You want to go to rural Japan? It's dirty. And in Japan. And I had been there 3 times. Okay. Right? And I'm comparing my country and Japanese countryside. I'm like, that's clean. This is clean. You get it, right? So you get to understand, like, now, when I go back to the rural areas where I did my research, I start to understand, like, okay, this is what they meant, when they say it's not that clean, right? But as someone who was coming from Africa, I was like, yo, this is the highest level. Yeah, perfect. Exactly. So it's like as you go up, you start to hold yourself to a different standard. And maybe last thing in terms of that question of yours is something that I noticed is there's this high consideration for others in Japan. High consideration for others, right? So, for example, if I do something, I have to think of, okay, how is it going to affect the next person? Right? This is really different. Exactly. And back home, someone just throws litter everywhere or is making noise. I know probably like a considerable number of people that, speak on the louds, like it's really unnecessary. His phone is ringing. They are speaking like this, just put the phone in you and speak. And this, like, no one cares, what the next person is going to feel, whether I'm disturbing their peace and everything. And here I saw it, especially in Kyoto, because, the Kyoto's people. Exactly. Yeah. They're still a bit like, I don't know if conservative is a good word, but, they like to take things slow, they've all the time compared to Kanto people, to Tokyo people. So, I saw that a lot, like, there are a lot of obachans and ojisans in Kyoto, and they'll be like, oh, sakini dozo, you go first. It's okay, Every time. Yeah, it's okay. And sometimes I get lost. Oh, where is the Yubin Kyoku? They'll be like, oh, I can show you, right? And then later I had to learn the phrase, jikan daijoubu desu ka? It's like, you have time, right? And they're like, it's okay, I'll show you. And they go with you. Oh, this is the... Go with you. Yes. And not just show you the direction. In Kyoto, I had so many of those things. Some of them, of course, they are interested in like talking to you. But someone would just like escort you all the way to the post office. So that was really interesting for me. Of course, it's less here in Tokyo, but I enjoy the fact that someone considers the next person and they act differently based on that. That's something that I think we should try to do everywhere else. Yeah. Wow. It's like you are talking about the whole different world. Exactly. Yeah. Some of them good. Some of them, I needed time to get used to it.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. Just search for Study in Japan for Africa. So when we experience that type of differences, we can realize how our countries existing. Our identity or the country's specific things. Before this question, please introduce yourself. Where are you from and where did you study? After that, I want to ask about your country's peoples, especially your identity. I want to know your identity. How different?
My name is Rangarirai Gavin Muchetu. I'm from Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a country in southern Africa. I learned to say this sentence. Zimbabwe is a country in southern Africa, especially here in Japan. I'm a professor. I'm an assistant professor here in Lake University. I've been in Japan this is maybe my 9th year. 3-4 years of that was for schooling. And then maybe the rest is trying to find some work here in Japan.
How do you feel about Rikyo? This is my favorite, one of the favorite university in Japan.
Really?
Yes.
Really? Wow, nice. Actually, Rikyo is really nice, and it was familiar to me coming from Doshisha. And I later learned that they actually sister schools. They have some collaboration, and their university colors are purple and same as Doshisha. And they are both Christian schools, Christian universities, and the infrastructure is almost similar. They use red brick.
Oh yes,
all
red
over.
brick.
Yeah. So it felt familiar. I like it. And Doshisha also has like a big tree, Christmas tree, which they decorate during the festive season. And here they also have it. They have 2 here in Rikyo.
Oh, yes.
So that was nice. So I felt like an upgrade, from 1 tree to 2 trees. Yeah.
That's great. So before we go to the next question, let's see that 2 trees. Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
So let's go and see the trees.
Yeah.
Right over there, we have lots of international students that come to sit over there by the greens.
The greens?
Yes, I don't know why, but this is their preferred area. They come and sit over there.
So the Rikyo University, they have very good programs for international students.
Yes. And I think they want to attract more international students, not just exchange students, but full time. Yeah, full time. You come and then you take your degree from here.
So this is a good time to apply.
Yes,
for Rikyo University.
Yes. And get a lot of, also African students should also apply. I think they have a lot of scholarships within the university. Hi, konnichiwa. They have a lot of, scholarships also within the university. So you can add that to the, next.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, Nexus program, does it have any scholarships?
Yes, of course. Then the Nexus program, at least they have a tuition waiver, so.
Really nice ones.
The one, yeah.
Yeah, so during the Christmas, they decorate it and they put like a big star right at the top.
Wow.
Which is really nice. I love
great.
it. I love it. So yeah, we come and take lots of pictures in front of this. Yeah.
This building, it's very beautiful.
Yeah, so this is actually the chapel.
This one?
Yeah, this is the chapel.
Okay.
This is the chapel.
How old is this university?
We were celebrating 150 years.
150?
This
No
last
way.
year or this year, I think. We're celebrating 150 years.
Wow. Okay, let's go back to the podcast.
Yeah. In most Zimbabweans, I think this is also answering your identity question. Most Zimbabweans have 2 names.
2 names? Okay.
Actually, 3 names, right? So the third one is the family name, right? The surname.
Okay.
And then you have a first name, which is usually Shona or your native language name. And then you have a middle name, which is usually an English name.
English name?
Yes. And this is, a result of colonialism, sadly.
Okay.
People used to have an English name so that, the white colonizer would be able to pronounce your name. Right? So, for example, when you told me your name, I said, I might have difficult pronouncing it. So to counter that, you would have like an English name.
Okay.
That you would say, my English name is this one. Then, the English-speaking people would use that name. So my Shona name is Rangarirai, and then my English name is Gavin.
Gavin?
Yeah,
okay.
which is very British. And then my surname is Muchetu.
Muchetu.
Yes. So that kind of also talks about, my identity in terms that, like, most of the Shona-speaking people, when we name our children, it's usually like, in a way, it's a word.
Word.
It's not a name. Do you get it?
Okay.
In the sense that, in English, if you want to name your child, what's the perfect way? God's grace.
Okay.
Right? You would call them. What's this word? There's a name which means God's grace. There's a name which means God's faith. There's a name which means happiness. There's a name which means strength. Right? For example, Peter means something. Right? So in Shona, instead of saying Peter, we name our kids like the description of that word, which is weird, but that's how we do it. So my name is Rangarirai, which basically means remember.
Remember.
Yes. And my parents wanted people to remember how I was born. You know, there was some complications when I was born. So my dad wanted people to remember. Yes. So you will find that there are some people that are called happiness in Zimbabwe. The word happiness. That's their name.
So we can
use
that word as a name and also in the middle of the sentence.
Yes.
I have like happiness.
Yes. So you have happiness, you have people that are called loveness, love more, admire, you know, it's a whole crazy naming process. But this is also not just the Shona people, but also different other tribes. I don't know if you can try to call them tribes. So we have about 16 different languages in my country. 16, yeah, 16, and maybe 3 or 4 main ones, like larger chunks. So everyone kind of understands English, can speak English. This is the medium of exchange in schools, in education. Then about, I think 80-something% speak Shona, which is my ethnic language, yeah. Maybe 15 or so % of they speak what is called Ndebele. Ndebele. And this is called the clicking language. Yeah. It's closer to Zulu from South Africa, and I think some languages in Botswana as well. Yeah. Then we have like Venda, Nambia, and other like smaller languages. Yeah, so from these you have different people that speak these languages, and they have kind of different identity as well, so to speak. Yeah.
How about yours?
So mine is Shona. And actually,
how different?
Yeah, so Shona, I always say this, Shona is closer to Japanese in terms of pronunciation.
Okay.
Yeah, so we use the A-I-U-E-O, right? So
in your language?
Yes,
Shona.
Yes. So in my language we say A-E-I-O-U. Like if you go to elementary school, you'll find some random kids in some class going A-E-I-O-U and so forth.
Okay.
And in Japan, when I came to Japan, it was like A-I-U-E-O, right? It was really, really interesting for me. But that's how we pronounce. So for example, Rangarirai, same pronunciation in Japanese. Rangarirai, right? And you have, so for example, we also have names like Tanaka. But in my country, it's like a first name. And it means beautiful, or we are beautiful.
They're all Tanakas. Yeah, it's beautiful in your country.
Yes, exactly. So same pronunciation. And you know, Amai is mother in my country, and I think in Japan it means sweet or something.
Yeah.
So, but same pronunciation. So, but then you have Ndebele, which has a lot of those clicking, right? Which is different.
Very much different.
So the way the languages are spoken is quite different.
I see.
Yeah, and also that kind of factors in how we speak the English language as well. Because you know the mother tongue, it kind of affects how you pronounce English words. So the way we butcher English words is exactly the same way that Japanese people would butcher English words. Yeah, so you have bazi in my language.
Bazi.
In Japanese it will be basu. Right, bus. So something like that.
I see.
Yeah.
From Africa with purpose. So where did you study?
I did my high school and part of my primary in Harare. Then after that, I did my master's, my bachelor's in Zimbabwe, University of Zimbabwe. For 3 years. I studied agricultural economics, applied in agricultural economics at undergrad, and that was a 3-year program. Then I did my master's at the same university, two more years, and I graduated in 2013. Then I came to Japan to study for my PhD. In Doshisha University.
Doshisha University.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to know exactly what the story behind that. Why did you decide to come Japan? Means like when I started to think to go abroad, I realized that some problems in our country.
Yes.
Some problems in myself.
Yes.
There are a lot of problems for living.
True.
Here, we can live. We can live. We don't have any problems.
Yeah.
But in my country, in developing countries, there are a lot of problems.
True.
What did you notice in your countries, like challenges, problems, and why did you choose to go out abroad? Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. Just search for Study in Japan for Africa.
I think, that's a really interesting question and maybe difficult question to answer. Because, many people would say like, oh yeah, I realized that, this is the problem and I want to fix it. So but for me, at the risk of turning this into a ideological answer, but I always feel like, it's not just a one moment, kind of thing like, oh, this happened, then I decided to do PhD. I think it's like an aggregation of all your experiences, starting from a young age until the moment you decide. So everything that happened there is building up to you making that decision.
Yes.
Too abstract. Okay. But let me give you an example. For example, I used to listen to a lot of Trevor Noah. Yeah, he was a really funny guy. I wish he was now with the Daily Show now because of Trump, because he used to make a lot of very funny Trump jokes. But he said that we tell people to dream, right? To dream. I'm paraphrasing. We tell people to dream, but dreams, we can only dream as far as our imagination takes us, right? And sometimes our imagination is limited.
Yes.
Right? So what it means is like, for example, imagine me 10 years old, I'm in the rural areas. So first part of my life I lived in the rural areas on a farm with my grandfather. And my dad was in the city. This was usually the setup in the 80s, 90s, right? So you would have your father working in the city, your mom and your grandparents, you are in the rural areas, you work on the farm. This was the colonial setup, right? So that to decongest the capital city. So yeah, I'm in the rural areas, I'm 10 years old, I'm looking after my grandfather's goats. Because at 10 years, you're not allowed to look after the cattle.
Oh, really?
You're too young, they might go astray.
Okay.
So I'm looking after my grandfather's cattle. And at that moment, I cannot say that I had this dream of coming to Japan. I can't, that would be a lie. I can't say I had this dream that I want to change Zimbabwe. Do you get it? Right? I can't say I had this dream to do a PhD and, come back and make policies. I can't do that, right? At that moment, I used to look at, for example, I was showing you Mount Fuji, we can see here, right? Look at that. Oh, what lies beyond those mountains, right? I want to know. I'm tending my cattle, but I'm like, what lies beyond those mountains? I wonder if I go there, what will I be seeing, right? This kind of stuff, right? So I think that is the base of the motivation throughout, all the way getting to PhD. So at each stage, I move on, I go to those hills. Beyond that, I want to go more, I want to go more, I want to discover more, right? So I think that is the biggest thing that has been the motivation, I think, for a lot of people, right? So you get to a certain stage, you dream based on what you know, what you can see, what you can imagine, and then you elevate yourself until you get to the highest.
Yes.
Or maybe not the highest.
We never touched that.
Yeah, but a higher position, right? So I guess I would say the biggest motivation is just the need to know more, need to elevate yourself momentarily. That is the biggest elevation. That is the biggest motivation, I think.
I see.
Yeah.
For Japanese people, well, like now it's like changing, but 10 years ago, when I asked the Japanese people, "Do you want to go abroad?" They
say maybe no.
Yeah, no. Even they can't say no because they never thought about that.
Exactly.
Because they have a perfect life. Not perfect, but that's
enough.
fine. Good enough. So they never thinking about to go abroad. So they never try to learn English.
Yes.
Sorry, but
yes.
they never try to learn English. But these days they're different.
Changing,
but for ourselves, somehow
true.
we want to go abroad.
Yes.
Why?
Yes. I think also it has to do with like exposure as well. Right. So again, as I said, the first thing when I was in the village is, my dad works in the capital city in Harare.
You want to go?
I want to go to Harare one day, right? Oh, if you want to go to Harare, you can't use these goat skills or cattle rearing skills. Yes. You need to have some kind of, educational skills. So go to school, excel in your studies, right? So at that moment, that is the push for you to just elevate yourself so that I go to Harare. And then eventually I move in with my parents. I start to go to school in Harare, right? So again, the dreams change. They become bigger, right? And you start to be exposed to, TV. In the rural areas, we didn't have any electricity, right? So I couldn't even dream of going abroad, right? So because we don't watch TV. Okay. But I go to the city, and my dad buys a TV, all of these things. I start to see, Black Americans, music, dancing, movies, and you start to dream about that as well, right? And you start to be exposed to, a lot of other different things. I was saying that I don't know what Japanese people are exposed to, and maybe that, I think a friend of mine told me that maybe that's part of the problem also. For example, not so many are interested in Africa, right? And the reason being, most of the images or videos that they see about Africa, it doesn't make them want to dream about going to Africa, right? So, what you're exposed to and the kind of message that those videos or media is portraying will also influence what you want to do. So when I was in high school and university, I wanted to go to the United States, especially in high school, because I wanted to be part of the Black African American culture, because it really looked cool. Yes. Then when I was doing my BSc and my masters, there was a kind of like a political conflict between the West and Zimbabwe. So we had some issues with Europe and the UK and our government, and lots of sanctions and so many of those things. So a lot of the things that we started to see was kind of saying like, the West is not really our friend, they are not really friendly, and we, as a country, adopted kind of a look east policy.
Okay.
Right? And we had very friendly relationships with China. Right? And most of our ideas, since independence, were kind of communist anyway. So communist ideas about how to, organize the means of production was very alive in Zimbabwe. So during that time, I started to think about, okay, I want to go and do my PhD in China. That was the biggest thing. Like, I want to go to China. I want to do my PhD in China. But with time, I started to apply a lot of universities in China, right? So again, I always say that it's an aggregation of many factors, right? So I applied to many universities in China. I never got any reply. Then I applied one time to Japan. Then I got it.
Just one?
Just one time. Under this next scholarship. Right, and I'll tell you a funny story about this application. I don't know if I can.
Yes, of course.
So I get the advertisement, right? Oh, there are mixed scholarship opportunities, and then I'm like, oh, okay. I think probably they want like 50 students or so. So let's apply, and then I called my friends from my class, and many of my friends, they were really good students. Like, I was an okay student, but they were really like awesome students. And I'm like, I am counting 1, 2, 3, 4 of my friends, and I'm the fifth one, and then maybe they will get maybe 20 other students from other universities. But yeah, we apply, we go to first interview, second round interviews. I'm like, yeah, we are going, right? And then later they're like, yeah, so actually we take one student each year. One student. Only one student. I'm like, what? And then I'm like, because I think I know for sure, they're going to choose some of my friends, right? So, but eventually they chose me, and then I came to Japan. So
wow, okay.
That was trying to answer the question. Like, it's always like an aggregation of many factors, and some of it is luck, some of it is maybe just God's plan, because I believe in God as well. So there's never like one moment where you say, okay, this is why I came to Japan, or this is how I decided to come to Japan. Yeah.
Wow.
Was
only one.
Really one student.
Chosen one.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like I chosen one. No, I'm joking.
That's true. From Africa with purpose. He was the chosen one. So what did you learn?
I was Jose Moreno.
Jose Moreno.
Yes.
Okay. So what do you wanted to learn from Doshisha University? What do you wanted to learn from Japan?
So when I came here, what I wanted to understand mostly, in fact, the reason why I wanted to go to China was so that I understand how they revolutionize their agriculture, right? Because for a long time, China was also a developing country.
Yes.
Some still argue that it is still a developing country, but they have managed to pull a significant amount of people from poverty. So I also wanted to kind of learn that and then apply it to Zimbabwean agriculture. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. But then when I applied to Japan as well, I was like, yeah, Japan is like a kind of post-agrarian society. So I could also learn how they did it, how they moved, because, agriculture is always the best for any economy, be it here in Asia, in the UK and everywhere else. The agriculture is the best, and then move it to industry, and then manufacturing, and then services. So I was like, still there are lessons to be learned. So I came, and then as I arrived here, I had a conversation with my supervisor, Professor Yoichi Mine in Doshisha, and he, as we were looking at the literature, we were like, a lot of the actual productive work came through the agricultural cooperatives in Japan, right? So they were at the forefront, right? The JA, I don't know if you know the JA. So the JA, yes, Japanese agriculture cooperatives, they played a bigger role in terms of how development in the rural areas progressed. So I was like, this could be a really interesting thing to look at, especially given the fact that At some point, Zimbabwe also wanted to adopt the similar model. They wanted to have agricultural, cooperative-led agriculture, and it failed. Right? So I wanted to...
Already failed.
It failed in the 1980s, late 1980s, yeah.
Okay.
And so I wanted to look at what happened, how did it fail? Why did it fail? And things like that. So I guess when I arrived here in Japan, I wanted to understand that. How was it so successful with its agriculture? And how can Zimbabwe learn from that?
I see. Yeah. So what did you find?
Yeah, so basically that was my PhD, right? Fortunately, I managed to also write a book based on the same data that was published 4 years ago. So, I mean, the biggest results that I found is that, in Japan, they had kind of three, or at least right now, they have three different types of cooperatives. So they had one that is like really, ideological. So the focus is not really about making profit, making money for the farm. It's about, growing a society, encouraging each other to be good, to be good citizens, good community members, and profit is not the priority.
Okay.
Do you get it? So that was a bit successful. It's still successful. And then you have on the extreme end, very market-oriented cooperatives. These are just like, they don't care about the farmer, they don't care about what's happening in their household. They focus on the product. So you give us the product and we will sell it for you. And we'll give you your money. That is as far as the relationship will go. Right, so these are two extremes. But then somewhere in the middle, that is where, in my research, I located the JA. I said, the JA kind of transcends these two extremes. In some cases, along this trajectory, if you look at the history of the JA, there's a point where it's like really concerned about the farmer, right? How are you? How are things? Trying to really address the concerns of the farmer. And then somewhere along the line, it starts to, shift towards the, focusing on the product. And I guess it was necessary within the, how Japanese economy was changing as well. So these are the three main things that I found out. And for kind of advising Zimbabwean cooperatives as well, one of the biggest things that I came up with, there's a whole chapter in the book dedicated to that, is to have structures, right? So this could be at the farm level, at the regional level, at national level, to have some kind of structures that really represent the farmers. Because the biggest challenge that the Zimbabwean farmer is encountering is when they come into contact with the markets.
Markets.
Yes. So when they are looking for their raw materials, right, so they want to get their fertilizer, seeds, chemicals, they are exploited. They are very expensive when they buy those inputs. Very expensive to transport them to the farm. And all of these, there are lots of middlemen in between. There's a lot of, opportunistic, capitalist merchants that are there. And they exploit the farmers so much. And then the farmers, they go back to the farm, they go through the production cycle for the whole season, right? And then after that, when they come back to try to sell again into the market, they are also exploited in the sense that the prices that they receive are very low. It's ridiculous. So they are kind of like, it's like, imagine if it's a cigarette and it's lit, both ways, right? There's a Shona proverb for that, right? It's lit both ways, and they are burning from both sides, from the inputs and from the outputs. So the solution that I decided was that we need to have some institutions that really represents these farmers, and the best way for those institutions would be their own institutions that they create by themselves. So they come together and they say, we are farmers from Chiba area, and this is what we want, right? So even if it's not like at a political level where they're advocating for more rights, but at least they say, okay, let's come together. When we go to buy seed, we do it together. When we go to put this product on the market, we do it together. We save on cost, we save on transaction cost, we save on transport, and we can bargain together. Right? But for them to do that, they need to have some structures.
I see.
So that was, I think, the biggest outcomes from that research. Yeah.
Okay.
And that is lacking right now.
Yeah, that's true. Because I found the research from the World Bank.
True.
The rural area.
Yes.
Is more than 30% have the food problem.
Yes.
And
exactly.
also the water problem.
Exactly. How can you have food problems when you have the farm? Yeah. Right? So it's always like it's because of some organization. There's no organization in the rural areas. And if there are some, most of them are not formed by the actual farmers. So their objectives are different from what the farmers want.
I heard the other side of the research is about the international corporations and the economics.
Yeah, recently I started to, branch out of agriculture because I'm here, I'm based here in Japan, and agriculture now accounts for I think less than 2% of the
2%.
Yeah, of the
only.
GDP, 2 or 3%. I'm not so sure, but it's less than 5% of the GDP of Japan, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So agricultural issues are not so important. They are important, but they are not so streamlined. Yeah. So I started because I took my PhD in global studies. I saw the perspective that I used there kind of helps me, look at area studies and try to understand different things in different countries. Right. So within that, you start to experiment with, of course, there's always a political aspect to that. And also when I was in my master's and bigger part of my thesis, I used kind of a political economy perspective. Right? So I wrote my PhD trying to understand, the interaction between politics and the economy. So the decisions that leaders make, how does that affect the economy?
I see.
Right? And because when we talk about institutions, creating institutions for farmers, we're talking about the decisions, institutions that will make decisions, that will make policy. So how does that affect the productivity at the end of the day? So within that kind of helped me to navigate the international relations seas or waters, so to speak. So I have a couple of papers where I kind of solely focus on international relations, on how international development is happening between different countries that I've published, and also try to use human security. Human security. I don't know if you have heard of it. So there's human rights approach. So now recently they start to talk a lot about human security approach. Okay. It's it complements the human rights approach, but it's I believe it's more comprehensive. Yeah. So all of those things have kind of helped me to focus more on international relations, and also here in my university, I'm teaching international relations as one of my courses.
I see.
Yeah.
Human security. This is my first time to hear about this.
Really?
Yes.
Human security is basically trying to what do you call it? Protect people from fear and from not having enough. So they say from fear and want. So this means all the things that make you insecure. So anything that gives you anxiety. So it looks at job security, for example. It looks at social status, for example. It looks at dignity, right? So if you somehow you have you have a good job, you have a good salary, but you are working 15 hours per day, right? So your human security will be lower. sometimes maybe, someone might look at you and be like, oh, why are you complaining? You have functional trains, you have everything. But my human security is lower because, I'm overworked, right? I'm just working too much and I'm not happy. So it also includes all of those things. So it's been thought of as a broader approach to international, development than previous ones.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes, like our next generation, using that word, that type of things.
Yes.
Like
hopefully.
overly.
Yeah, because also human security is good in terms of like it tries to look at how the people want to define their dignity, for example, right? So, for example, I might come in and be like, this is not dignified, right? We shouldn't do this. But then for you, the way you describe or you define dignity is different from the way I define it. So a human security approach tried to say, okay, this is how he defines dignity. So for him, this is dignity, right? So it tries to be more comprehensive and kind of also have a bottom-up approach compared to some other approaches before. Yeah, but also it complements those approaches. Because I don't want to be quoted as saying that it's better than other approaches. Yeah,
that's true. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. Just search for Study in Japan for Africa. What are you thinking recently? Because every time you say that when you were 10 years old, you were thinking about that.
The next point.
How about now? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting and also again difficult question because as I said, I think some people used to say this about money, there's no amount of money that is enough, right? So you get to 1 million, you're like, oh, I want to be 1 billion, and then you get 1 billion, and you're, before you know it, you're Elon Musk. But anyway, recently, my family recently joined me here in Japan. Yeah, they used to be back home, so they came to Japan. So I've been spending a lot of time trying to, right, with my kids. I have 2 kids and my wife. So recently I've spent a lot of time with them. But I've also been thinking about my second book. I told you that the first one was 4 years ago. So I really need to, be creative and think of some interesting things to write. Of course, I've done a lot of research in between. Of course, I've had some on COVID, some on human security and everything. So yeah, I've been thinking about my second book. I need to write that. Also, something that I've been thinking about for the next, the big picture, is some influential roles that I have to take, I must assume. Because at the end of the day, we want to help change our countries back home. I think that is the biggest thing. Every diasporian is always thinking about, okay, how can I change? How can I change what's happening back home? And yeah, that has been on my mind. How can I actually contribute to changing the situation back home?
I see. Yeah. From Africa with purpose. I want to ask my last question about what is your piece of advice for who are studying in Japan or working in Japan or who want to study in Japan from your country, exactly from your country? What is your piece of advice for them?
From my country, maybe let me separate the advice, right? If you're a student and you want to get a PhD or some other degree from Japan, go for it without hesitation. I recommend. It's a very, very good experience to come to Japan because, as I said, you need to be pushing yourself to learn more, to rediscover, to challenge yourself, right? And one of the biggest things that I think every leader, I think we read about how, Putin spent some time in some other place, right? Maybe in the US, maybe here in Japan. When they were kids, we learn about how, the North Korean leader did some of his education in the US, right? So it's very important, for future leaders to experience other cultures, experience other, environments, right? Take you out of your comfort zone and put you in a different place, expose you to how things are done differently. When you go back, you have a fresh set of eyes to look at the same problems that you left, right? So if you're going to learn and you want to come to Japan, don't hesitate.
Okay.
Worse, if you have a scholarship, then you don't even need my advice, right?
Yeah.
Then in terms of those who want to work here, again, I would, of course, advise them to come to work. Here, Japan, one of the biggest challenges that Japan is going through is population decline. Low birth rate, and they also have an aging population, right? So a lot of people that are getting old. So they have a lot of solutions to this problem, but one of them is to encourage more people to come, immigration, to come to work in Japan. So there is people really, the Japanese government wants more workers to come to Japan. I think they will gradually increase the number of people they let into the country with time. But if you're going to come here and learn, you need to be committed. I think that's what I can say. Because Japan has really good systems. It's very safe, right? Yes. The salary is good. You can survive, right? But you have to commit, a lot of things. For example, the biggest thing you have to commit is language.
Oh,
so
hardest part.
Yeah. So we grow up speaking our local language. So Shona for me, and then you go to school in English. So if you're going to come here, you have to learn another language, which is Japanese, which is a bit more difficult than English. Yes. I think in my understanding. So you have to commit to that. But once you get that Japanese language, there are so many opportunities for you here in Japan. So I think it's a thumbs up for both. But the other one, you have to maybe invest a bit of some time in learning the language.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Go for it.
Yes, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe and share. See you in the next one. So, this is the end of the podcast. My very first episode.
Yeah. I think it went great, right?
Yes,
right?
Of course. It was very interesting for everyone. So, that's it.